Q4 tends to be the most lucrative time for self-publishers. Everyone loves to see an increase in sales. Especially in December, people can get too reliant on the rise in sales and begin to feel like this is the new benchmark for their royalties. However, this is not the case at all. After we reach a peak in December, inevitably it must be followed by a decline. Let me demonstrate just how crazy things get in December. You can see that in November, my royalties were a healthy $7,273, which is already above average for me. Then we look at December and the royalties go through the roof. I more than doubled my November earnings. Royalties doubling from November to December is quite common for publishers at all levels. So obviously, this ridiculous increase cannot be maintained and must be met with a sharp fall. Because I've been self-publishing for over 4 years now, I am aware of the KDP cycles and know what to expect. But if you are fairly new to publishing, January can be a make or break period. Let me explain why. During Q4 and especially December, everyone is highly motivated. Most will see an increase in sales, and even those that are not experienced in sales yet see royalty posts on YouTube and Facebook and get inspired. Because of this, everyone works their butt off trying to upload more books, and they dedicate more time to capitalize on the Christmas demand. Also, thousands upon thousands of new people want to try their hand at self-publishing after seeing the potential. But when Christmas is over and the sales drop, motivation deserts most of us. When motivation is gone, it is difficult to keep showing up and working on the business. For some, it is impossible. I nearly quit after experiencing my first KDP crash, and I like to make these videos for those that are experiencing the same thing. You may not feel like quitting right now, but over the coming months, you might begin to feel that way, as I did. Let me tell you about the quick story of how I nearly quit Amazon KDP. So I first began publishing back in September 2019, as you can see here. Luckily for me, I started my publishing career as Q4 was about to begin. This meant that there was a higher chance that I would make a sale. If I started at the beginning of the year, I may not have seen sales, and this may have forced me to give up due to lack of results. I managed to make sales in my first month. However, this was because I purchased some of the books, so did my friends. One book in particular brought most of my sales, and that was because I posted about it in a niche-related Facebook group. In the Facebook group, I showed it off in a non-spammy way, and people asked where they could get a copy. I didn't say anything like, "Get this book at Amazon, here is the link." Getting these organic sales motivated me to carry on publishing and prove that this business model works. So in my first month, I managed to earn $176, which was great. Obviously minus what it cost me to buy a few of the books. In October, I earned royalties of $210. This was helped by the increased volume of shoppers looking for early Christmas gifts. Since I got my first organic sale in September, I was highly motivated and dedicated every spare moment of time to researching and pumping out new books. I was obsessed. Self-publishing was all I could think about. Anyway, the dream continued into November, where my royalties more than doubled. Earning close to $500 in 1 month blew me away. I was so happy, and if you thought I was obsessed before, you can imagine what I was like after seeing my royalties double. I remember calling in sick at my full-time job for a whole week, just so I could focus on creating more books. Please don't tell my boss. December came next, and I was walking on cloud 9. My royalties tripled, and I earned a whopping $1,500. Because I was so new to everything, I didn't really know about the KDP cycles, and that December is normally the peak. I just assumed that my royalties were growing at a rapid pace because I was working extremely hard and pumping out a ton of new books each month. I remember thinking, if I can keep this momentum up and keep pumping out books, I can easily hit 2,000 in January and maybe 3,000 or 4,000 in February, then I could potentially quit my job. Oh, how wrong I was. Very, very wrong. As January started, I maintained my work ethic and was highly motivated to keep making books. However, as the month went on, I realized that the sales were starting to decline and my motivation started to dwindle as well. Luckily for me, I had a lot of Valentine's Day books that were selling quite well, and so my royalties didn't completely fall off a cliff. For January, my royalties were cut in half and I earned $784. I remember being a bit disappointed, but $780 was still a good amount. February came, and so did the Valentine's Day shoppers. My sales increased, and I managed to earn $958. I started to believe again. I thought that the momentum was coming back, and I would hit over $1,000 in March. Again, I was wrong. March was a very challenging month for me as my royalties fell to $441. It felt like a massive blow. I was still working extremely hard, and for me, the effort didn't match the returns. I was still dedicating every spare moment to creating books. Again, I thought it was just a bad month, and so I carried on working hard. Then April came, and this is the month that I nearly quit. My royalties dropped again, and I earned just $333. Here is where I really started to doubt myself. I remember thinking that maybe the good months were flukes, and maybe I just got lucky. I also thought that Amazon KDP was becoming saturated, and many other reasons. I also remember thinking that the hours that I had put in up until this point was not worth it for royalties like these. In the first 6 to 7 months of my self-publishing career, I had published around 500 to 700 books. That is how obsessed I was. I think you can imagine how many hours it took to make that many books. And you're probably thinking that they were very spammy books where all the covers were the same. Maybe I changed the color of the cover, or maybe changed one word or something like so many other people do. But these books were completely unique to one another. I always mention that I was obsessed at the beginning, but no one will really know how obsessed I truly was. The only people that will know how truly obsessed I was myself and my partner. So not being happy with that amount of royalties, where some of you might be happy with that amount of royalties, was simply to do with the amount of effort that I'd put in up until that point. I wasn't being ungrateful, I just felt like I deserved more for the hours that I'd put in. Anyway, I remember thinking that for the same amount of money that I earned from Amazon KDP that month, that I could have just worked an extra day or two at my main job without all the extra hassle. However, after a lot of back and forth mentally, I decided to carry on for a few more months at least, and I'm so glad that I did. I think you can see why. So moving on to May, and I earned $567. June, I earned $759. And July, I earned $916. And the rest is history. So whether your decline comes in January, February, March, or April, take it from me, do not give up. This business model does work, and one of the most frustrating things for me, especially having a group with over 30,000 people in it, is seeing people quit. I have seen a lot of people come and go over the years, and it's really frustrating for me because I know that this business model works, it has changed my life, and I know it can change a lot of people's lives too. But they do not know this, and therefore it is hard for them to keep up the effort for a long period of time. It will be even harder for people who make no sales for months and months. But again, I urge you to keep trying and to stay consistent. Motivation will fade, but discipline is what you need to learn to be successful. Discipline means showing up when you have no motivation and when you face challenges and obstacles. So again, the point of this video is to hopefully stop at least one person from quitting too soon. I'm glad I didn't quit, and you will be too. You can clearly see how much money I would have missed out on if I did give up back in April 2020. To make it clearer, here are my royalties for 2023. And as I always say, I don't show you these figures to brag, but to inspire, hopefully. This amount works out to over $6,500 a month on average, before expenses, etc. Quickly going back to my lifetime royalties, you can begin to see the pattern of the KDP cycles. Now, this will differ based on the types of books you have and whether they're seasonal or not, but it will be similar for most self-publishers. My sales start to rise during Q4, and I have a massive peak in December. Then my sales fall off substantially, but my Valentine's Day book stopped the drop from being too harsh. After that, my sales are fairly flat for many months and throughout the summer. Then the cycle repeats itself again. Now, what this means is once you know about the KDP cycles, you can prepare yourself mentally for any ups and downs. You can sort of control yourself when the times are good, stop yourself from getting ahead of yourself, and when you know that there is a decline coming, You can prepare yourself mentally and to just work through it because you know there are better times ahead. After 4 years of self-publishing, I can already predict roughly what will happen for the rest of the year, and so I won't suffer any self-doubts or thoughts of quitting. An important lesson from this graph is the progress that is happening over the years. My goal is for the lowest months of the year to be better than the previous year's lowest months, meaning that my base earnings are improving each year, and hopefully it continues to increase over the years. Let me know in the comments if you are having thoughts of quitting. Thank you for watching until the end. As I mentioned earlier, my Facebook group has recently hit over 30,000 members. I like to give back to you when I reach certain milestones, but as this one happened a lot quicker than I was expecting, I didn't really have time to put together a big giveaway. So what I have done is to heavily discount the price of my Amazon Advertising Blueprint course. Mastering Amazon advertising is one of the biggest factors towards my success, and that is why I chose to create it for my first course. It's very easy to learn how to create and publish books, but getting them to sell is the hard part. So if you are interested, the link to that is in the description below. Thanks again for watching. Stay disciplined, stay hungry, take care.